The Darfur region of Sudan, a vast expanse of arid plains and ancient mountains, has become synonymous with one of the most horrific chapters of human history, marked by unimaginable suffering and loss. Welcome to Cryptic Mystic Vault, where we dive deep into the hidden history of human civilization. This conflict, often described as a genocide, has left an indelible scar on the conscience of the world, a reminder of our collective failure to protect the vulnerable. Beginning in 2003, the government of Sudan, under the iron-fisted rule of Omar al-Bashir, unleashed a campaign of unimaginable brutality against its own people, primarily targeting non-Arab tribes in Darfur, leading to widespread devastation. The conflict in Darfur is not just a regional crisis, it is a stark reminder of the human capacity for cruelty and indifference. A dark chapter in modern history, it is a story of systematic violence, ethnic cleansing, and the displacement of millions, uprooting families and destroying communities. Understanding the roots of this conflict, the actors involved, and the impact on the civilian population is crucial to preventing future atrocities and working towards a just and peaceful future for Darfur. This essay will delve into the heart of the Darfur crisis, exploring its historical context, the motivations of the key players, and the devastating toll it has taken on innocent lives, leaving a legacy of pain and suffering. We will examine the role of the international community, the challenges of peacekeeping efforts, and the ongoing struggle for justice and accountability, highlighting the need for global solidarity. By shedding light on this ongoing tragedy, we hope to inspire action and prevent history from repeating itself, ensuring that the voices of the victims are heard and remembered. To understand the Darfur conflict, one must delve deeply into the region's complex and multifaceted history and the deep-seated tensions that have plagued Sudan for many decades. Darfur, though geographically part of Sudan, has long felt marginalized by the central government, which is dominated by Arab elites in the north. This sense of marginalization is rooted in historical grievances, including the legacy of the slave trade, which saw many Darfuris enslaved by Arab raiders. Ethnic divisions, primarily between Arab and non-Arab tribes, have been exploited and exacerbated by the Sudanese government to maintain its grip on power. Competition over scarce resources, such as land and water, has further fueled tensions between these groups. Decades of political instability and authoritarian rule have created an environment where violence and impunity thrive unchecked. The Sudanese government, driven by a policy of divide and rule, has systematically discriminated against non-Arab populations in Darfur, denying them basic rights and essential services. This deliberate marginalization created a powder keg of resentment and anger, which erupted into open conflict in 2003. The Darfur conflict, though rooted in historical tensions, erupted with a sudden and unexpected ferocity in 2003, catching the world's attention. Two rebel groups, the Sudan Liberation Movement, SLM, and the Justice and Equality Movement, GEM, emerged from the marginalized non-Arab tribes. They demanded an end to government oppression, greater autonomy for Darfur, and a fair share of the nation's resources. Their attacks on government targets marked a significant turning point, triggering a brutal and relentless counterinsurgency campaign by the Sudanese government. The government's response was swift, merciless, and aimed at crushing the rebellion with overwhelming force. Unwilling to confront the rebels directly, Khartoum unleashed a proxy militia known as the Janjaweed. This group was composed mainly of Arab nomads who had a long history of animosity towards the non-Arab farmers of the region. Armed, funded, and supported by the Sudanese government, the Janjaweed embarked on a reign of terror. They targeted civilians, burned villages, and committed widespread atrocities with impunity. The Janjaweed's campaign of violence was characterized by extreme brutality, including mass killings, rape, and torture, leaving a trail of devastation. Civilians caught in the crossfire were deliberately targeted based on their ethnicity. The intent was clear: to cleanse Darfur of its non-Arab population through systematic violence. The world watched in horror as reports of these atrocities emerged from the region, highlighting the urgent need for international intervention and justice. The violence unleashed upon Darfur quickly escalated into what many experts have labeled as genocide, a term that carries the weight of immense human suffering and loss. The Sudanese government, through its support of the Janjaweed militia, pursued a deliberate and systematic campaign to destroy, in whole or in part, the non-Arab ethnic groups of Darfur. This was not a spontaneous outbreak of violence, but a calculated and orchestrated effort. This campaign was characterized by widespread and systematic killings, rape as a weapon of war, forced displacement, and the destruction of livelihoods. The scale and brutality of these actions were staggering. Villages were razed to the ground, their inhabitants either massacred or forced to flee for their lives. The once thriving communities were reduced to ashes and rubble. Women and girls were abducted and subjected to horrific sexual violence, often in front of their families. These acts were intended to terrorize and humiliate. Men and boys were arbitrarily detained, tortured, and often killed. The aim was to break the spirit of the community and eliminate any potential resistance. The Janjaweed, operating with impunity, instilled terror in the hearts of innocent civilians, leaving a trail of death and destruction in their wake. Their actions were unchecked and relentless. The Sudanese government's actions in Darfur bear all the hallmarks of genocide: the intent to destroy a specific ethnic group, the commission of acts of genocide, and the infliction of conditions of life calculated to bring about physical destruction. The evidence is overwhelming and undeniable. The international community, however, was slow to acknowledge the gravity of the situation, failing to take timely and decisive action to stop the bloodshed. This inaction allowed the atrocities to continue unabated, causing further suffering and loss. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe for more mind-blowing discoveries and thrilling adventures into the past.